Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S lifeline. We are here to help. And today, sitting on the stoop, we're about to get the scoop. This young man right here. Oh, y'all are going to be so happy. We got some information to pass along to you. Definitely about It's Our Turn to Serve campaign, the military effect. Joshua Perschbacher, did I get that right?
You did, yes,
Locked it in on the first attempt. That's what I'm talking about. He's a force of connection after serving two impactful deployments with the U.S. Navy for Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. Josh transitioned into a new mission, ensuring that transition service members are served appropriately. For 7 years, he served as a school certifying official, helping veterans navigate and maximize their GI Bill benefits. But it didn't stop there. Josh also founded the VetWork, a powerhouse network and ecosystem that helps bring together transition service members, military spouses, and veteran professionals and veteran-focused organizations from across the region and globe. He's not just creating events. He's creating opportunity, community, and momentum to help others move forward with their post-military journey. Welcome, Josh. How you doing today?
Doing very well, doing very well.
Oh, man, thank you. And I will share with you before we hit the record, but I say, when you was a school certified official, I don't know if you was mine, but I tell you what, that position helped me get into the transition space because I did not know what I wanted to do. Where they said, man, what you going to do when you grow up? So the grow up was me transitioning out of service and moving on to part 2 or act 2 of my life. But I know a little bit about you, Josh. What's the scoop on you so the audience and the listeners can know who's Josh?
Man, if you find me on LinkedIn, I've got a Malcolm Gladwell quote of, types of people and being a connector. That's just always, kind of how I've been. Just here recently, locally where I'm at, just outside of St. Louis, went to a venue with a friend of mine, and I came in and saw somebody else that they knew and they didn't know that I knew them. They said, how do you just know everybody? And then before I turned around, there was somebody else that I knew. So kind of leveraging that piece of things has always been something that I've done. It's not I say it's easy for me. I know it's not always easy for other people, but really have always kind of gravitated towards opportunities like that. So working in a university, seeing student veterans coming in all the time kind of lended itself to that. And then trying to use my aptitude there to help navigate people through that process. And then try to step it up a little bit more when we started the vet work back in 2017.
Wow. So with the VetWork, I know that we're doing this campaign. It's Our Turn to Serve. And underneath the military effect with Scott as being the author of that book. I know we had a conversation. You said that they reached out to you. So being part of this campaign, like, what made you say, yes, I want to be a part of this campaign? What drove you to say, I want to be one of these individuals that people are going to see to kind of push forth the military effect?
The biggest thing was having other people here in this ecosystem that I trust. There was a colleague of mine, friend here in the greater St. Louis area. His name's also Scott. There's several Scotts in the area.
Yeah.
And we're around Scott Air Force Base, which I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. But Scott Heathman had connected me with Scott and said, hey, he's got this opportunity. And I trust Scott Heathman implicitly. He's a great guy and phenomenal resource. So whenever he kind of made that intro, I knew it was something that was, worth kind of sinking your teeth into and putting some effort behind.
Nice. So I know, you got your degree in education, and you went from the Navy, you did some great things, and you said, I need to start connecting more people. I want to be this connector. I want to build this network. What fueled you to launch VetWork? And what is VetWorks for the audience? What's the
Yeah,
scoop on
yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I'll give you my May 17th, 2017 is the day that will live in infamy, right? Um,
Nice.
I was working in Chicago at Northeastern Illinois University. I was a school certifying official there. I was attending an event for a really great organization. It was called Bunker Labs. I believe
Mm,
they're associated now with University of Syracuse,
yeah.
but it was a vet tech startup accelerator incubator program, and they were having their Super Bowl of the year, right? Like their big event. And they had a couple hundred people there talking about how do you start doing crowdfunding and kind of kickstarting venture capital stuff. And it was a very interesting time back in 2017 because if you're a vet and or anybody really, and you're trying to start up a new business in the tech space, when you start to get investors that are coming in, and some of them may be international, well, now you start going into this, the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC, not the
Yeah.
football stuff, but the SEC. They come back and say, these are all the things you need to know. So they had an undersecretary for the SEC come in as a guest speaker for that day. So all of that is happening. And at the same time, 3 blocks away, Guggenheim Partners are paired up with The Mission Continues, great veteran organization, and they're doing LinkedIn profile building and headshots and all of that. And on the north side of Chicago, they had Liberty Call. And it is a just happy hour, veterans kind of getting together, hanging out, camaraderie type thing. And I thought,
Mm,
man, this isn't great when you have 3 specific events for veterans all happening on the same day at the same time.
right.
Fast forward 2 weeks. Now you have the epic pitch. So all of those guys that are at Bunker Labs, they're actually going before venture capital and pitching on their business ideas. Roll Call Chicagoland is also having an event for veteran networking, trying to find jobs, doing all that. And then the Road Home program at Rush University is doing a gala to raise money for their inpatient mental health program. Great stuff. But again, we
Right.
found ourselves with 3 different events for veterans at the same time on the same night. And so that was really the impetus behind we as stakeholders in the veteran ecosystem, we need to do a better job of
Mm,
deconflicting all of these events. Veterans don't have, the resources to try to go to all of these things at the same time.
right.
They shouldn't have to choose between getting mental health assistance and putting food on the table and trying to find a job. But then also there's the side of Travis Manion Foundation, Wounded Warrior, a
Yeah.
couple, they typically have one person in the region that is there to service that greater metropolitan area. They can't go to this event and this event. They can't be in 4 places in a single night.
Right.
So they're having to pick and choose, well, which veterans do I want to help and which ones do I want to wish the best of luck and hope they figure it out on their own. So that was really what catapulted the idea of we need to create something that can bring awareness to the different events that are already going on, and then highlight that, putting those people in the same room so that the decision makers and the stakeholders can deconflict some of those and say, hey, I know you've got a really big event coming up. I'm going to kind of stand down. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to
Right.
pump all my people towards you. And I would in turn hope that you can then funnel your people towards me next month because we kind of helped you out. So that was really the ramp up of the vet work. Now I have to tell you, we had to do a big pivot because I left my job in Chicago and came down to St. Louis. When I got there, that Roll Call Chicagoland veteran networking event they were having every month, they weren't having something like that happening all the time. And so plagiarized everything that I could, talked to my friends in Chicago and said, I want to do what you guys have been doing, but I want to do it down here. And so that really was the pivot there to say, we can still do the same mission of connecting all these people, but we're going to create a venue and a location with a community that people can come to and share all of those ideas. And so that's where the
Right.
VetWorking RTL came about. And next week, we're actually going to start our first VetWorking KC event. So we'll be branching out from St. Louis and starting to
Nice.
host events on the other side of the state as well.
Nice. That's huge because that's definitely as a veteran that's transitioned or a serviceman that's transitioned to veteran status, is so much going on. It becomes confusing, right? Like, oh, should I go here? Should I do that? But to streamline it, definitely with vet work, it definitely makes sense because that way, like you said, they can hit the same different events not at the same time because one person can't be in 4 places at
Right.
once, right? So No, that is huge. And I know that circling back to being a school certified official and with some veterans starting to use their job, what was some of the pain points or roadblocks, one of the biggest roadblocks that you've seen veterans just trying to, figure out the process by itself, just trying to go back to school and trying to pick up a new skill set?
Yeah, it was I tried to look at it in a little bit of a different way. We underwent a rebrand whenever I was there. We became what's called UMSL Vets, and that was Veteran Education and Transition Services, right? And
Okay.
so I tried to have people shift their paradigm off of you're not at school to get good grades, right? I mean, that's not the reason you're here. You're here because it's a stepping stone towards something else. And
Right.
so if I've got veteran A and they have a 4.0, but at the end of their time and they graduate, they don't find a job. But I've got veteran B who has a 2.8 GPA, but finds a job, arguably who had a better transition, right? Like
Yeah.
just because you got the grades, that's awesome. But if it doesn't transition and translate into you landing that job, I think you're kind of missing the point because you're not here just to rack up degrees. These aren't
Right.
qualifications that you're putting on your brag sheet, right? You need to have
Right.
something at the end of it. So trying to get people to kind of shift their thinking on that and creating those opportunities for student vets to find externships. So over their spring break, they're going to go and intern with a certain company over the summer, finding opportunities to do that. Bringing in some of our alumni that maybe were veterans from the university, have them come back a few years later, talk about their experience and what it is. Doesn't have to be like the formal mentorship. I
Mm.
love, American corporate partners and stuff like that, where you get assigned a mentor. There's also just soft mentorship. You meet
Mm.
somebody who works at a certain company and you say, hey, I'm just kind of interested. I'm in the St. Louis area. Boeing has a huge presence here.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
it's like, hey, I think I'd like to work at Boeing. And you find a
Right.
guy online through LinkedIn. We create opportunities for people to sit down and actually meet somebody and say, you've been a project manager out there for 12 years and you're a vet. Like,
Mm.
how did you get there? Well, here was my path. This is what I did. These are some of my pitfalls. And so we tried to do that within the university to eliminate some of those roadblocks that people were having because they weren't getting the connections outside of the classroom. They were doing the classroom part. The benefits piece, it's a struggle at times. I think it's gotten a little bit better. We're getting to that point now that a lot of people that have gotten out. Um, when I was there were people who um, they got out and then your benefits would expire at a certain point, and then they passed a forever GI Bill, and so now when people get out, they don't have to worry about their benefits expiring. Uh, we had people who had really good intentions when they were deployed. The education officer got behind everybody and said, hey, I want you guys to take classes while we're downrange. And so you signed up and used your benefits at the University of East Texas, Rio Grande Valley Technical College, and you've got some credits that aren't going to transfer for anything. Well, that
Right.
counted against your total number of months that you could utilize for your GI Bill, even though it wasn't GI Bill, you're using 1606 or another program, but it was starting to reduce off of your total 48 months. And all of a
Ah.
sudden, you've used 18 months of that, and now you only have 30 months. So they don't even get to use their full 36 months of the post 9/11 GI Bill. So there was some education pieces there that we had to do. I was able to work with our like bursar's office and financial aid to find out when people got to the end and they found out that they were going to be out of benefits and that wasn't going to pay for their last semester. We did identify and find some scholarships that we could use to help people kind of bridge that gap at the end. We didn't want somebody to make it through, you're at the finish line, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Right.
and then the funding just doesn't come through. So we tried to make sure that we could find solutions for people on that to not be. I didn't want that to be the thing that holds somebody back.
Right. So as being in the trenches in the transition space and definitely seeing individuals come to you when you was a school certified official, what's some of the things or recommendation you would share with people that's like 6 to 12 months out from transition? Like, is there certain things that they should be prepared for? I know definitely connect with the vet work, right? Because I'm sure y'all be pushing out information that's not just in the Chicago area, like within the US, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of other programs that are out there. So I'm also a part-time instructor for Four Block, and they're also in Scott's group and gonna have some input there. But they have a veteran transition class that they do. Um, so I look at when you're at that 12 to 18 months out, about a year. I'll tell you right now, I hate the term resume writing. Right, this is the difference. There's resume writing and then there's resume building. Resume writing is I got to the end and I see a job posting and I'm going to look back on my time and try to figure out how I can fill in the gaps on these required and preferred qualifications. Resume building is I know what type of job it is that I'm looking for. And
Right.
I'm going to look at those qualifications and I'm going to look at myself and say, do I have all of these? And if I don't, how can I deliberately seek out opportunities to get those skills so I can add it on there? If it says I need finance experience, going in there and saying, well, I was the treasurer for the Veterans of America my sophomore year. I don't know that really, passes the sniff test for most people who are hiring managers looking for finance experience. Uh,
Right.
if that's something that you think that you're going to need, you need to deliberately seek that out. And that was something we really tried to push was at that time, I believed it was true then. I believe it's true now. I'm going to steal this from a friend of mine, Lewis Collins. Great follow on LinkedIn. But he said there has never been an easier time to transition than now. And that's nothing to do with the job market and all of that, because that is what it is. There is more information and more resources that are out there and easily found today than there was yesterday. And it was easier in 2017 and 18, whenever I was a school certifying official, than it was in 2013, whenever I got out, right? So
Right.
it's only getting easier and the access to information and resources. And so making sure that people are aware of what is out there is the biggest change. Uh, we think it's going to be easy. I came out in 2013 and there was I call a sea of goodwill. There were all these companies. We're going to
Yeah.
hire 1 million veterans. We're going to do this.
Yes. I remember that.
And you kind of think like, why wouldn't they hire me?
Yeah.
I'm a veteran. I got a master's degree, on and on and on. And it wasn't there. And I had a false sense of hope and false sense of security because I saw that sea of goodwill. We're going to hire all these veterans. I didn't realize how much work it was going to take. And I was a little disillusioned by that. And so having gone through that, I try to pass that on to as many veterans as I can, that the resources are there. You have to look for them. You have to take the time, just like a pre-mobilization for deployment. You've got to put in that time if you want your deployment to go smooth. If you don't put in the time, you're going to have a bad time on deployment, right? And so it's kind of the same thing. You've got to put in that time, but the resources are there. It's just a matter of connecting the dots.
Right. And definitely a huge resource is VetWork. So what would you tell somebody that just probably maybe came across the website? I'm gonna ask you, like, where's the website? Like, what happened? They just come across, like, man, what is this VetWork stuff about? Like, where do you see it growing in the next couple of years? Is definitely being a part of this campaign is going to be huge because more people are transitioning now than they were 5 years ago.
Sure.
The
Yeah. So we're kind of getting to be a part of a smaller network. And so I mentioned earlier, my colleagues in Chicago, they have the Roll Call Chicagoland. There's the Quad Cities Veteran Network, and they hold monthly veteran networking events. There's a group in Milwaukee that's trying to get some things started. And I know my friends at Roll Call, Justin Miller, they're working with some of the people in Milwaukee to get them going. We've been running ours here in St. Louis since 2018. And so we're going on just over 7 years now. And then starting over in Kansas City, next month. And so when you look at kind of what it is that we do, and you asked the question earlier, how did I get involved with this? I said, well, I trust Scott implicitly. We're trying to also branch out to a lot of these other kind of veteran geographic networks and having trusted agents, right? Quincy Harper is down in San Antonio, doing great work down there. Mill City, there's Vetlanta, there's all these other groups. And I don't feel like we're in a position that we need to go run roughshod over everybody else and create something when there's something already there. That was really the impetus of the vet work to begin with, is we don't need to have duplicative efforts. I wanted to create this calendar and highlight what was already going on. I don't need to do that. I have people come in and say, what about veteran homelessness? You could do something there, or mental health. I go, there are plenty of people who are already doing great work. I want to highlight and evangelize the work that they're doing. I don't need to come out there and create another 501c3 for trying to solve the veteran homelessness problem. That's just not, I don't think that that's a value add. Put more resources towards the ones that are already doing phenomenal work. So if you see kind of where we are, we're starting to branch from, St. Louis into Kansas City, but then also reaching out to those other areas and having a trusted network that if somebody doesn't matter if you're getting out of the military in Bangor, Maine, or wherever, you should be able to look, and we would have resources to be able to point you to, here's a group of people that are already kind of in your area. You should reach out to them. And whenever you get there, they can kind of get you plugged into that local veteran ecosystem. We all go through TAP, when we get out. My biggest complaint with TAP is you go through TAP where you're getting out, not where you're going.
Yes.
I got out
Everything
in
is
San
different.
Diego. The resources that were in San Diego are of no use to me whenever I'm going to move to Chicago. I need to go through TAP in Chicago. So we look at that of how can we highlight those resources in our area, but then find other, like a lighthouse that's out there and say, hey, look over there. There's resources there, and there's a group and a community that you can kind of get involved with that can help point you in that right direction.
Right. And definitely, I look at it as a military one source. I know a lot of military people think of it. Some people is not in the military space, so military one source on the active duty side is like you go there and it redirects you to where you need to be. Because like we shared earlier, Josh, it's just so much information, so many different awesome nonprofits. But when you're transitioning out, you have all that to look into: where I'm going to move, where I'm going to eat, if I'm going to go to school, am I going to find work, am I not going to find work? Car payment is still, there's a lot of stuff. And then now you like, wow, now I got to look for some veteran resources. And, you have everybody scattered around doing great things, but, come to your network, the vet work, and then it can be redirected. So it's a one-stop shop. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. And we look at it at that way of, we host our monthly events, right? They're monthly vet working events. And so here in the St. Louis area, we're always looking at the second Tuesday of the month. For anybody who's familiar with the geography, there's the Illinois side, and then there's the river, there's downtown, and there's kind of out in the county. So we bounce every month. So we go from the Illinois side to downtown to out in the St. Louis, St. Charles County, and then we go back. So anybody who wants to get involved, it's coming out to one of those events. We've got vets who've already made the transition and then they're paying it back. They're coming to the events, letting people know they don't always have jobs. It's not that they are coming because they're a hiring manager, but it's also people going because right now they're not looking for a job, but you never know what the market's going to do. You never know how things are going to change. I don't look at transition as a switch that you've transitioned or you haven't. It's a constant spectrum process that you find yourself, you've gone through it, but even at your current job, you may be, promoted into another role or from one line of business to another. That's a transition. If you leave that company to go to a different opportunity, there's going to be transition there as well. And so having opportunities there that you can meet other people from around the region. You may not be looking right now, but sometime you may be, or they may be, and you've been able to meet them. Very kind of like low stakes environment. It's not a cattle call career fair where you're handing out resumes to every single person, and then they tell you just go to our website and apply online. It's more of building those relationships and having that rapport that you can have with fellow veterans from the region. I think that's the key difference in that. And it's professionally minded. We have our 4 pillars. So they're all E because it's, alliteration is helpful. So we look at employment. I mean, that's always number one. Everybody needs to put food on the table. Education and training is a second. And so how do you get the skills that you need to bridge that gap to make you employable? and then using your GI Bill benefits or not. It could be we've got apprenticeship programs here within cybersecurity and software development that allow you to go in there as a veteran and not use your benefits, right? So that's some things here locally. The third is entrepreneurship. So if you want to take that leap and you want to start up your own business, we want to be able to point you towards resources and bring people in who can talk you through what those look like. And then the last one is engagement in the community. We want to provide outlets for people to be involved in their community and making it a better place. So I know a handful of really great charities here in the St. Louis area, and we try to, quarterly, we go through our 4 E's into different areas, but highlight different organizations that are doing great work. Mentioned before, Mission Continues. Nationally, you got Team RWB, Team Rubicon, Wounded Warrior, things like that. Here locally, we've got Songs for Soldiers. They put on a charity concert every September. They've done it for 12 years now, and they've given out over $1.5 million to combat veterans in the area. So there's lots of ways that people are looking at, just because we took the uniform off doesn't mean our time of serving is over, right? There's a lot of serving left to do. And so no matter how much cool shit you did whenever you were in active duty, there's more things out there. And I want people to have that opportunity to go out and find their calling to make a difference in their own community.
And that's perfect, because that's what this campaign is all about. It's our turn to serve. So I want to say thank you, Josh, for definitely coming on to sharing about the vet work, about being a school certifying official and how that process is for veterans, and definitely in the transition space. I just want to say thank you. And is there anything that you want to share with others, like how to connect? You said connect with you on LinkedIn, but how can they get it? Do you have a website for the vet work? Like, where can they go to kind of lock in, or maybe a newsletter or something along those lines that they can reach out?
Yeah, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. The only, Josh Perschbacher, I think you're really going to find on there. It helps having a unique name like that. Our website is thevetwork.org. And it's very localized, like I said, for St. Louis, and then branching out into Kansas City. And so we'll start to have more events listed on there. We try to help populate different events that are going on here locally, but we are kind of regional in that St. Louis and Kansas City area. But getting that bigger umbrella between Chicago, Quad Cities, and Iowa, Milwaukee, and so that kind of greater kind of Midwest area is really our focus point.
All right, I appreciate it, Josh. And remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. You grab that VET S.O.S lifeline. We are here to help. Josh and his team is here to help. VetWork is here to help. And don't forget, y'all can still reach out to him, because he's a school certified official. He's still wrapped in his brain. So if y'all have any questions that's concerning about, how do I start the process, or where do I go, I'm sure Josh will not turn your way. He'll answer your question, or he'll point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Until next time. Peace.
He says.